After 6 months in China, I've had many friends say it must be a culture shock coming back to home sweet home in Britain. Well, here's my response here. 4 big differences I've noticed between China and the UK, including unexpectedness like how the Chinese ride in taxis. Let's begin. Britain is just a lot quieter. Housing in China is so dense, it's block after block of flats, whereas Britain is terraced housing like that. So it makes for much quieter streets. There are 1.4 billion people in China, and you do notice it. For example, Abby and I decided to check out the Xingping fishing village. I was like, great, gonna check out a small little quaint village. But that village happened to have 80,000 people in it. Whereas villages in Britain are something like this, where there's like 30 houses spread out. So obviously the difference between China and Britain is pretty massive. Okay, on to food. The Chinese way of eating is very different to the way that we do it in the West. They have a set of communal bowls on a round table, and then everyone uses chopsticks to eat from those bowls. I really like this way of eating. It's very communal. Everyone has to interact with each other in order to complete the meal. But on the flip side, it does lead to more food waste because it's much harder to judge just how much food you should actually cook. And also, it's Chinese culture, if that everyone finishes everything on the plate, then the host hasn't cooked enough and has done a bad job. So I've been to many meals and restaurants where we've left a ton of perfectly edible food, and that's something that really doesn't sit well with me. So that's something that China probably needs to improve. Manners. Now, manners common in the West are, let's say, less common in China, to the extent that the Chinese government has had to release a pamphlet informing Chinese tourists to not spit, phlegm, gum, throw litter, urinate or defecate whenever they feel like it. Spitting is pretty common. Honestly, I don't really mind that. But as a British person, there is one thing that really frustrates me, and that's queuing, or the lack thereof. I'd be in a train station queuing for my ticket, and to be fair, there are people who obviously do queue now, but there will always be a steady stream of people trying to skip to the front. I really have to control my British instincts and not lash out at that queue jumper. And the final point is social connectedness. There are quite a few funny examples in China. For example, when someone gets into a taxi, they often get into the front seat. So it looks like the taxi driver and the passenger are just mates going on a trip somewhere. Whereas in the West, you'd always go in the back seat. A less trivial example is the parks and public spaces. They're always full of old people gambling, playing cards, old ladies doing dancing. It's a beautiful thing to see. Now, Britain in the summer is absolutely amazing for social activities. We have beautiful parks and street festivals. But we do have the significant problem of isolation and loneliness of our older generations. So there are my 4 big differences between China and the UK. Did they take you by surprise? What would you say the biggest differences are between China and the West? Let me know in the comments below. Hey family, sorry I missed last week. I've just been obviously busy with work, and I'm just trying to find the flow of fitting the YouTube channel in around work. Work's going really well, I'm learning a ton, I'm really enjoying it, and I'll share more of the stuff that I learn and the ideas that are going through my head in the coming weeks. I'm going to do the second Wu Wei video, so I hope you're excited about that and put some pressure on me to get it done in the next 2 weeks.